This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. That little solo you just heard there was me getting my funky fusion trousers on. I don't do it that often, but I have fun when I do. Tell you what, here's a little bit of an explanation about what I was getting up to. Okay, the solo was played over the chord sequence that I featured in Wednesday's video. So if you saw that video, you'll know all about the chord sequence. If you didn't, then I'll link to that video down in the description box. But basically, what we've got here is a chord sequence made up of what we call static chords. Now, a static chord is a chord that isn't related or connected to the chord that comes after it or before it in the chord sequence. They're not in the same key, they're not in the same mode, anything like that. It's just every time you change chords, you change key, essentially. And the two chords that we're mainly dealing with here are C major 7th and A flat major 7th. And those two chords, as I say, don't occur in the same key. They're not related in any way. Now, when you've got major 7th chords working like this, just as static little islands of harmony, then it's sort of usual to play what we call the Lydian mode over those chords. Now, don't panic. It's not as difficult as you might think. Anytime you've got something that's C major orientated, including a C major 7th, you would probably think in terms of using this shape here, the C major pentatonic. Okay, and you can do that and it will sound absolutely fine. But what you can also do is just throw in a couple of other notes. In this case, it's for the Lydian mode, it's what we call a sharp 4th and a 7th, or, you know, in terms of naming the notes, it's an F sharp, which is the sharp 4th, and a B, which is the 7th, and that makes the shape look like this. There we go. So that is now the C Lydian mode. And to hear exactly what the Lydian mode brings to the party in terms of the difference it makes, here's just a little bit of a contrast. You're going to hear me jamming just with a C major pentatonic over the C major 7th chord and then with the C Lydian mode, and you'll hear the difference. So hopefully you could hear there the difference that adding those two notes, the F sharp and the B, into the C major pentatonic made to the sound of the solo. It just adds a little bit more flavour, a little bit more spice, basically. Then, when the chord changes to the A flat major 7th, you just transpose all of what you just learned there from C into A flat. Simple. You know, hopefully you can move things up and down the fretboard with relative ease. If not, get practicing it. Then there are basically a couple of licks that I want to talk about. That usually a lot of people ask about these kind of things when I throw them in. The shreddier sort of stuff. There's this sweep picking lick. So let's have a look at what was going on there. Well, basically that lick happened over the A flat major 7th chord, and that's going to become relevant in a moment. But let's just have a look at the lick itself. I'm playing a B flat major arpeggio, starting at the 13th fret on the A string, going to the 12th fret on the 4th string, going to the 10th fret on the 3rd string, 11th fret on the 2nd string, and 10th fret on the top E string. So that goes, and you'll notice that's all basically one continuous downstroke. Then I go to the 13th fret on the top E string with an upstroke, and then back to that note again with a downstroke, and pull off to the 10th fret, and then come back up the strings using the same kind of pattern that I went the other way with. So you get that, and then I just move that up to a C minor arpeggio, which is C, E flat, G, C, E flat, G. Okay, so that's 15th fret on the 5th string, 13th fret on the 4th, 12th fret on the 3rd, 13th fret on the 2nd string, 11th and 15th on the 1st string, and it's exactly the same motion with this hand as well. So it's, so you run those together nice and slowly, you get, and then you just practice it up to the kind of speed that you heard on the track. So why those two arpeggios then? Well, as I said, we're playing over the A flat major 7th, and we're using A flat Lydian. There is the A flat Lydian scale there, and you can see that lurking within that scale you have the notes of a B flat major chord. That's one of the arpeggios I used. And also inside that scale you have the notes of a C minor chord. Again, that's the other arpeggio that I use, and that is how I tend to use arpeggios, really. I just tend to think of them as ways of grouping together notes from whatever is the appropriate scale I'm playing over. I don't usually tend to do that thing of just shadowing the chord sequence by playing the arpeggio of the underlying chord. And then the other kind of slightly flashy lick that's going on was this legato run. So what I'm doing here, this is in the chorus section of the tune where there's a C minor chord, or C minor 7. And once again, these chords are all what we would call static chords. They're not really related to any of the chords either side of them. So you don't really have to take into account the bigger picture of what notes are lurking inside the totality of the chord sequence as to which notes you can play and stuff like that. Basically, you can, if you've got a C minor chord, you can use C minor pentatonic. Okay, and as I say, usually in a kind of a big sort of solo where you're playing over multiple chords, you would think, well, okay, that other chord over there has got this note in it, so I can add that note in, and this chord here has got that note in it, so I can add that note in. But the chords aren't related to each other, so each little chord you just treat as its own little universe. So I can add any notes I want into that C minor pentatonic within reason, and what I did here was I added in a D note there, and there, that's an A note. So I'm adding D and A notes into C minor pentatonic, which gives me C Dorian. And the lick that I played is one that I tend to go to a lot of the time. I'm basically starting here on the A note at the 7th fret, and I'm going up this little series of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Like that. So starting here, hammer on, then onto the next string, hammer on, pull off, and then hammer on from nowhere onto the 10th fret of the D string, and then climb back up that ladder again with hammer-ons, and then slide up to the 12th fret. So, and then again, just all hammer-ons and pull-offs using notes from the C Dorian mode, which is just the C minor pentatonic plus A's and D's. And then resolve it onto that big bend there. So that would have gone. And that is pretty much the lick that I played there. That's the thing with these licks, they're just, they're relatively simple once you slow them down, and if they're simple, you can learn them, and if you can learn them, you can get familiar with them, and if you can get familiar with them, you don't have to think about what you're doing when you're playing them, and the speed just happens as a byproduct of familiarity. I've said this before many times, it's just like, being able to type a familiar password really fast. It's not something that takes, talent or cleverness, it's just something that you become really, really familiar with and you can do without thinking. So there you go. That's a little bit of a breakdown of the, the kind of underpinnings of that solo and a couple of licks from it that you can hopefully have a go at yourself. And there is, of course, a full tab in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats, along with a jam track to play along with, and that clip that you've just seen there of me explaining all the different shenanigans that was going on in the solo. All of that is up on my Patreon page. There's the address, and the link is in the description. It's only $3 a month, and you get all of these extra resources that go along with these lessons. And thank you so much to everybody who's supporting me in that way, or any of the other ways that you can help me keep the lights on around here. All the links are, as I say, down in the description. And that is pretty much it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the video, found it useful, informative, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. And if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not leave me a like while you're at it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.